Hello, Julia. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Ayesha Saleem. I am a business student at Jinnah University for Women and a United Nations online volunteer. Of course, the best assignment of my life was with your organization, of course. So let me introduce you, our speaker, to our participants. Miss Julia Skupchenko, who is an award-winning entrepreneur and sustainability leader with over a decade of experience in social innovation. Julia is the co-founder of AlterContacts, whose SDG Acceleration Actions have been recognized by the United Nations and awarded by the European Parliament. She also serves as a guest lecturer on social entrepreneurship at the University of Amsterdam and has authored over 50 articles on sustainable entrepreneurship and social innovation. Thank you so much, Julia, for joining us. Before we start, I would like to acknowledge that this session is an interactive session, so the participants are encouraged to ask questions in the comments, and then we'll bring it to the chat and we'll discuss your questions hopefully. Now, I would like to mention that Julia, the floor is yours. Please start with it.
Thank you very much, Ayesha. Thank you for this introduction. And I'm very grateful to all the participants that are here with us. I'm hoping that it will be an interesting and engaging session, and that I will be able to answer questions that you have about sustainable entrepreneurship and topics that are related to it. And one thing I would like to mention is that this masterclass, this talk, is delivered within the Sustainable Makeover program. It is a United Nations registered SDG Acceleration Action that is coordinated by think tank AlterContacts. And this is a special program for us because we developed it for recent graduates and young professionals to be able to make the move from school to work. It's the famous school to work transition, which can be really hard because when you make your first steps out there into the real world, it's everything is a little bit unclear. Our organization was co-founded in 2019, and back then we were working with very, very big corporations and European institutions. And that all was going really well, and we were bringing the people together to think in a different way. So that's the name, so the alternative context. So to find an alternative path to doing things and to be able to evaluate what is the impact of the actions of big companies on the second and the third horizon. And then came the pandemic. And we had to take a pause and rethink a little bit what was our direction, so where we were moving, and what would be our next, let's say, business model, I guess, because in the pandemic, all those big corporations decided that the think tank services, the thinking about the impacts, was not necessarily relevant for them because it was the survival mode of the moment. And from then on, we had to find something new. And that's how multiple new initiatives came on board. As I mentioned, the big change to our business model and what happened in our journey in general was the pandemic, when everything and everywhere was closing down. And after a couple of months of taking a break, we took part in EU versus Virus Hackathon, which was a wonderful initiative by the European Union to get together online and come up with various ideas on how we can address the crisis of the pandemic. That showed me that there is a lot of goodwill out there. There's a lot of passion to help. And at the same time as everything was closed, so the first reaction of all the entrepreneurs around me that I knew of, let's say, that they were feeling fear and panic, They did not know what to do next, just like us. So we were all in that space. And so the key challenges at that time that everybody was facing was, of course, getting clients and financing operations. Many people were stuck. Many entrepreneurs were stuck with still paying salaries for businesses that were not functioning. They were still paying rent. They were still paying other costs that were not cancelable on a day's notice. And the most important that we could address at the time was the missing information. So one thing that entrepreneurs do a lot is network, meaning they meet, they exchange information, they exchange some know-hows or maybe some news from different areas, and they come up with new ideas. And all of that together leads to, if not new business propositions, but maybe an improved version of their current proposition. And this is where we wanted to focus. So this is how lockdown economy was created. We decided that we need to bring the insights from one entrepreneur to the other via online medium. So we chose to do video interviews and publish them on YouTube and then share them between the entrepreneurs. I know right now that doesn't necessarily sound like an idea that is very new, because now there are a lot of video interviews done across the world. But if we look at beginning of 2020, that was not the case, of course. And this was quite new, and this was quite a breakthrough for a lot of people. Then we saw a big wave of people who did the same as us already half a year after. So, but let's say we were the pioneers of this. What was interesting is that we had the first series I recorded was with 30 different entrepreneurs from 14 different countries. That was all in English, and they were exchanging. Basically, they were sharing about their journey, about what they're doing at the moment, and how they're solving their challenges. And as soon as it was published, there was a lot of reaction that people were commenting, yes, that was a good idea, or I'm going through the same. And so it became like a brainstorm, so a knowledge exchange. And of course, from there, what was interesting to do is to grow. It was not, now it looks well organized and well planned and all figured out. But back in 2020, together with my co-founder and a few of the volunteers we had at the time, it was all figured out on the spot. So we were just inventing it as we went. And there was a lot of trial and error and a lot of uncertainty. However, we managed to, let's say, scale our non-profit activity. And we engaged volunteers from around the world who helped us to do the same kind of interviews in their own languages, in their own geographies. That's what was unique. As you see on the screen, you see the quotes in different languages. And that is thanks to our wonderful volunteers that joined us. And of course, we provided them with all the instructions, but taking the action was all up to them. And these interviews, at the end, we also presented this at the United Nations Day of Micro, Small, and Medium Enterprises in 2021. So at the end, we got over 350 entrepreneurs interviewed, and they represented 78 economic activities from 40. Now it is 42 countries, because this infographic is a tiny bit. It was part of the video we shared, but at the end we collected 354 from 42 countries in 17 languages. So this is a tremendous amount of learning. And the slide before was precisely because we not only did this initiative, for the entrepreneurs, we also took that learning, took those videos and went to universities and started collaborating with them on making educational programs. And it got actually featured as one of the case studies for teaching about sustainability. I think for now, this has been, I have spoken quite a lot about the journey that more or less led us on the path of what we have become, an NGO in special consultative status with the Economic and Social Council. And now I think maybe, Ayesha, we do more of a conversation so that it doesn't become a lecture.
Of course, I was really looking forward to it. I think we should start taking questions, and as in comment section, we have so much interesting questions. Let me read one for you. What skills will be the most crucial for sustainable entrepreneurs in the next 5 years that traditional business programs aren't teaching yet?
Well, that's a very nice question. And the thing with universities is that they try to provide you with the best education they can, but the process of getting anything in their educational program is very difficult. It has to be formulated with the range of experts. Then it has to be prepared and proofread and then audited by the government and then certified and then put in your program. So that journey takes at least 2 or 3 years, at least, before an update of the program can be inside of your educational curriculum, So that is not to say that the university education is not giving you enough. It's just that the process there is very different. So the most important skill that you need to have is to be able to learn from things that are around you. So you need to be able, as a sustainability, the sustainable development is defined as development that is good for the current generation without compromising the well-being of the future generations. That is in a nutshell. And as a sustainable entrepreneur, you need to start to be able to see it in different places, to identify what are the opportunities that are around you and how. So it's a little bit both analytical and inventive. Those are the kind of skills that you might need there, because you need to see the situation. So, for example, you go to your university every day on the road. You face the asphalt has a hole, and nobody's doing anything about it. So that is a very literal gap in what surrounds you that you, as a sustainable entrepreneur, potentially could solve. So you need to come up with an idea that would benefit the present and the future generations to address that particular situation. I don't know if that answers your question, but feel free to ask more.
Hello, Julia. It is really nice talking to you. I really am enjoying all I am really appreciating the fact that you have started an initiative and that's working great, to be very honest. And it's honestly a great idea and much needed right now. I like to add that I'm really enjoying the session so far. It's very informative and very helpful for us as being the students who are from this third year students from university like this. I also had a very important question for you. For a student like us who want to start a business, what's the first step to make it sustainable without huge cost? Because cost is something which is very prominent when it comes to like starting with the university students, as we are not earning that much right now. So would you please answer that question for me? I really will appreciate it.
Thank you very much for this question. So it's what is the first step to start sustainable entrepreneurship on the low costs, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So that is a great question, because in general, there is a perception that one always needs to have capital in order to start something, which in reality, one has to just be inventive and know how to go about the resources that they have. So in many ways, the main resource that you will have is your collaborations. So people that you know, people with whom you can work together. regarding the first step, it really does depend. So for example, if you want to have a recycling plant for plastics, which is quite common idea when people talk about sustainability, that is one type of resources that you need. If you want to provide free classes of painting to the students, to the children from the unprivileged communities, and you are the painting teacher and you have all the supplies, you basically don't need anything that that you don't need much of resources to start that. However, of course, if we talk about entrepreneurship, the idea that you're making profit as well as doing good. So that's where it gets tricky, because you cannot directly charge maybe let's say in the example with the painting and the children, you maybe cannot directly charge the parents of the children that are getting those classes. But there might be funds available at your city level or at your regional level that are supporting the creativity in children. And you, as a registered entrepreneur, can, for example, apply for those funds, and that can cover part of your costs, let's say, a part of your time. And then, of course, like I said, it does depend on the type of business you're thinking about. So that would be helpful to know. But before, I have two very relevant slides, I think. So one is there is a big misconception about what sustainable business is. So many people think it's green. It's something to do with plastic. It's something to do with technology. That is very amusing, because that's not just that. There is a big stream of funding towards it, and there is a big marketing engine that's working towards it. But in reality, anything you do as an entrepreneur to help your local community, to help the little part of the planet around you, so your neighborhood or your city, can already be sustainable. I have, let me see, next slide. Yes. So many times you see a great marketing pitch and there's nothing behind it. And what sustainable entrepreneurship is about is really doing something for others. And at the beginning, I think I had a few slides that I think could give you some ideas about what, yes, I'm sure everybody has seen this, this visual. So these are the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. What's interesting is that not many people know that under each goal, if you go to the platform of the United Nations, you will find targets. And each target is extremely specific as to what needs to be achieved. And under each target, there are indicators that needs to be measured. Those indicators are mostly for the government. However, the targets are very interesting to start framing in your head how what can be considered as sustainable entrepreneurship in the current day and age. So if it contributes to the target, technically it can be considered sustainable. But of course there are ifs and buts, and we need to look at every case separately. But this is the examples that I want to share with you. So this is a plastic bottle. Although not many people know that if you reuse your own plastic bottle at least 3 or 4 times, it becomes CO2 neutral. But okay, that's not about this. This is about the fact that the government in Greece subsidizes water, and any person can get half a liter at the beach or anywhere in the city for a set amount of 50 cents. Compared to, for example, in the Netherlands, where the government does not subsidize water, and to get the water at the beach, one has to pay the value-based pricing, meaning like the more difficult it is to find it, the more expensive it is. And so at the beach, it can be up to €5 per half a liter, which is really outrageous. So another thing that is very sustainable, but many people undervalue it and even think that it's like outdated. But actually, the local farmers markets, which is something that's disappearing from Europe, they're wonderful. Because it enables the farmers, who are basically entrepreneurs, to come and sell their goods and earn their living. But by doing something, but at the same time, they are also delivering fresh fruit and vegetable directly from the farm, cut on that morning, to the people who otherwise would not have a chance to have it. Because, of course, markets are mostly at the moment for elderly, although I very much enjoy them because, like my co-founder said the other day, the local markets is like a pharmacy, because you get all the best vitamins and nutrients and all that from the food. And another element of sustainability in this story is that the products don't travel more than 30 kilometers usually, and that's very important. Sometimes in the Netherlands you can find a fruit, pomelo, this yellow citrus that is a little bit like grapefruit but not a grapefruit. It comes all the way from China. That means that, first of all, it got collected in the geography that's very far from your surroundings. So maybe the nutrients from that fruit are not even useful for you. But at the same time, they got collected, then on a truck, they bring them to port, they put them in containers, they sit in containers, then they put on a ship, and then they're transported over several months to Europe. And then they're offloaded, and finally they get to the Netherlands. So this pomelo traveled maybe half of the world to get to you, and also very long time, which means that it's never going to have the same value for our health as the local farmers market. But yeah, I like to have fresh food, so I can talk about that topic quite a lot. We have another initiative about that, Encyclopedia for Sustainable Living in Post-Pandemic World. So, but let me move on.
So, what do you think that is better? Like to changing people, like to inspiring them to change how they think about sustainability and about how important it is to make sustainable life choices, or to redesign your own business system?
So just to summarize, the question is it important to change how people think, or
change your business strategies and systems?
That's a very good question. That really depends on, in reality, on your own life choice, I think, because of course, as a sustainable business, you have to follow ethical guidelines that respect every person. People that you need to respect, the people you work with, that people will work for you, and of course, the customers and clients that you might have. And when that is a requirement for sustainable businesses, that is always a requirement. You cannot be a sustainable business if a person is underpaying their staff, or they're doing bad practices with their product, or they're overcharging the customer. But to win from the competition that does all that, so does all those practices that are not respectful, it's very hard. And then it takes a lot of perseverance to stay on your own path, to decide that, it's fine that the competition that is not being honest with the world is winning on some axis. For you, what's more important is not to earn all the money in the world, but to earn honestly and honorably from people that trust your business, so that's really is a choice, and many people choose to go with the market and say, okay, people don't care about it, then I won't care about it, and then they do what they want to do. We decided that that's not going to work. We see that the competition that is not using ethical practices is sometimes doing better financially than the sustainable businesses, but that should not stop you. It's an ethical compass inside of you, and either it's there or it's not.
One of our courses, we have been learning the concept of sub-optimization, where all the respective departments just focus on their own well-being and their own selves, instead of like working for that one vision for the whole organization. So how you see that, and have you ever faced this challenge in your career?
Yeah, of course. That's very common. I mean, every person focuses on their own well-being, and every organization mainly focuses on the prosperity of that organization. What we found very important in our journey, which is now already, we celebrated 7 years this April, and it has been quite a journey. And what works best is not trying to convince somebody that they need to follow your vision or mission, because that's never going to work. If you're going to try to convince the world, there are times when you are working towards a project. For example, remote internships in education, something European Union-funded projects that we just completed preview. So, for example, for that project, at that moment in time, we found a consortium of like-minded organizations that at that moment in time cared about remote internships for students across European Union. And they were ready to invest 3 years of their time into working together to make it happen. Just the same, we work on other European funded projects, and the idea is there as well that we get together not for life and not for everything. We have different views on different other axes, but we get together for a specific project that we say, okay, the teaching, for example, the new project that we just began is about ocean literacy in municipalities that are adjacent to the seas and oceans. And we got together with a new consortium of people who said, of organizations that said, you know what, for us right now, ocean literacy is a priority. And we want to work together for that. And basically, this is how it works. Also with volunteers, frankly, it's the same. We post a listing on the United Nations platform for volunteers. We say we need volunteers for this and this and this for this amount of time. And then people who are available, who believe in that mission, they are applying and they're joining us. And then for 2-3 months, they're staying with us and they're completing their task. And then hopefully they come out very proud of it. Instead of pushing people, instead of trying to convince them that your mission is important, basically make an open call and say, hey, I believe in this mission. Who else believes in this mission? Let's do this project together, or let's do this initiative together. And then they will find you.
As we have talked about the international UN volunteers, so my question is, how can an international organizations like UN better support youth-led sustainable entrepreneurship initiatives at the grassroots level?
Okay, so it's very important that I make a disclaimer here that we do not represent the United Nations. The United Nations Volunteer Program is open to the registered NGOs, non-governmental organizations, to post their listing on that platform. But we do not have an affiliation with the United Nations, and we do not represent their views. So this is something I have to say now that the question was phrased this way. I think, and following that statement, I think, so going back to the question about the United Nations. So in line with what I said regarding the disclaimer that we do not have an affiliation with them, we are just an NGO that they recognize. And one of the great things that already we see from this example is that NGO like ours can post their listing on the platform of the United Nations. You know, our volunteer efforts have not been always easy. I mean, they have never been easy, but at the beginning they were really, really hard. The previous question about finding like-minded people, it was in 2020, even though a lot of people were really driven to help, it was extremely hard to find really volunteers. We used a platform called Idealist at the time, but we would get like 10 application maximum, and we would work really hard to promote the listing. So it was extremely difficult. And then we collaborated with one of the university professors, and he said, haven't you heard about this program, United Nations Volunteer Program? Do you know that as an NGO, you can actually register there? and post your listings there. That was really a game changer for us, because from trying to convince people that our mission is important, we got let's say a good a seal of quality from the United Nations that, you know, we are a good organization and we have a good cause, and that people can trust us. And that what attracted volunteers to join us. And then we were getting like 50 applications for one position overnight. It was incredible. Like before that, I've never seen anything like this. And we are also on the other side a sustainable business. So this is a very good way that they found to support organizations like ours, for example.
One of the participants were asking about the business failure question, and you were about to give the example of a chocolate factory or something. I would like you to continue.
Thank you. Well, there is a little chocolate factory in Amsterdam. It was co-founded by two young women. One of them had already experience in making chocolate, and the other one was passionate about mental health, and she was doing chocolate ceremonies. So basically when people come and together and mindfully drink chocolate and think about good things. That's in a nutshell. And they thought, why don't they make a new type of chocolate that is meant specifically for the mindfulness, so for mental health. So they make chocolate that is normal chocolate, 100% no sugar, and then it's measured. It was in little triangles that were each like 5 grams. And so when people wanted to have a mindfulness session that's a bit longer, they can have a more chocolate. So it was a simple idea, make a chocolate. But what's interesting in that story is that they started out in a quite exciting way. They found a place for their little factory. So they were the two of them, the factory. They found a little spot in the less privileged neighborhood, and they set up the whole production, starting from the bean. Then the bean needs to be roasted, and then of course the crushing, and then the melting. So the whole process of making chocolate, and then to packaging. They developed packaging, for example, with a local artist that did special drawings for that. So that's already contributing to community. I mentioned that they were not in a privileged neighborhood, so like kind of a rough neighborhood for a reason, because the place there was rented to them on the condition, so it was only they had to pay utilities, so they did not have to pay for the place itself. It was pretty nice deal, and on the condition that they open in the factory, they open a little cafe, so people can come. People from the neighborhood, at least once a week, can come and have the community gathering. And we sometimes do not notice how the little cafes, especially the simple ones, not like the ones where all the hipsters go to, you know, with a cool design and very expensive coffee. It's actually the simpler one where the coffee is really simple, that the older people go there, that the people with less money go there, but they become part of the community. You know, that's very important for Sustainable Development Goal number 10, it's about inclusion. That is very important. So these girls were doing well, more or less. It was not easy. They were working full time, obviously. But with time, they realized they want to grow. And then they set up a fundraiser and raised quite a lot of money, but it was not a fundraiser without strings attached. They had to return all the money. So they got the money, they purchased new equipment, they really grew their operations, they moved to a new location, and they still had to return the money. And the amount of chocolate they had to sell to return the money was tremendous. It was like a ton, literally 1,000 kilos of chocolate they had to sell just to return what they borrowed. And I think that's what created a lot of stress in their venture. And from that moment, also to run all that machinery, they could not do it on their own anymore. They had to hire people. When you hire people, that's extra costs. And so all that pressure was building up until one of them said that she's going on 2 months sabbatical and left the other one in charge, just like that. and the other one was busy with her own personal life. And because we are all people, and usually the sustainable practices, the businesses, they're really small, they're micro, small businesses, because people care and they do what they can. And of course, our private life affects what we do. Last month I was down with a cold for 3 weeks, and so this month I have to work double because nobody else will be doing this work for me. But anyway, so these girls got into a bit of a pressure cooker, and the outcome of that was that the one that came back from sabbatical was left in charge of the business, and the other one that got really burned out, she said that she wants to sell her part and she wants to get out. And so, to my knowledge, now that chocolate factory still exists, it's now smaller and it's run only by one of them. The other one got out and got married and got children. So, she decided to step out of all this entrepreneurship altogether for now, which is understandable. But if we look at the business terms, that could be considered a failure, unfortunately. But from a personal point of view, maybe they got everything they wanted out of that venture already. So I think I forgot to mention that they were sourcing their cocoa beans from the cooperative in Costa Rica that was very sustainable, that did not use child labor and had respectful pay to all the people. And that was one of the elements how they were sustainable. So because your supply chain also has to be ethical. So I hope that answers the question about the business failures.
So what do you think, what type of business practice or what type of product or service you think is not flourishing today in aspect of sustainability, but will be like a top tier thing to do in 2030?
I do not have a specific practice that comes to mind that will be normal by then. Maybe people will learn that what gets heavily marketed is not necessarily the right thing, because the really good initiatives, what they miss the most is getting out to people, getting their voice out, and nobody really knows. So for example, even on your street, there can be a store that brings all their fruits and vegetables from local farmers. And instead, one goes to supermarket and buys it from them, because supermarket says that they have one product that comes from local farmers. Well, that other little store has all the products that come from local farmers. But we just don't know, because marketing, so that the word that arrives to us is the word of the big businesses. And maybe that is more of a hope. I think I would hope that people learn to distinguish what's the marketing. So it's not always greenwashing, but it's certainly often misleading. For example, if you buy a hand cream and it says based on olive oil, and then you look at the contents and you have all these chemicals, chemical, like at least for half a bottle of the cream is chemicals. And then at the end it says 0.00001 drop of olive oil. Is that really olive oil? I mean, just as well, a person can go take a bottle of olive oil, take a drop, and spread it on their hands. That actually works. This is one of the medical practices that is totally normal. If your hands are dry, do that, and your hands will be young and soft and wonderful for a really long time. But to put all these chemicals on your skin, and it goes everywhere. It happens in everything. When they advertise food, also look at the contents. I think maybe this is what my hope would be. If after this talk, when you buy anything for yourself, look at the contents of what you're buying, please. If I can teach you one thing, it would be that, because there's so much money going into products that claim to be sustainable, they claim to be clean, and claim to be green, that have nothing to do with those three words. And you can find that out very easily if you just turn the package around and see the small font. So I don't know if that answers the question that was asked, but it certainly was something I'd like to share.
Yes, it does, and we are really enjoying the way you are talking very freely, and it shows that how much enthusiasm is just coming through you and just coming our way to our screens. So we have one of the very interesting questions, that how can consumers influence businesses to become more sustainable? See, at the end of the day, we talk about every aspect of business, but in a business, we know that the center of attention, the main character, are our audience, our customers, the people we are serving, our target market. So, how can we influence them to make sustainable practices? And on the same side, how can they force businesses to integrate sustainability into their operations?
Well, if we talk about making businesses more sustainable by being a consumer or not a consumer, is precisely very simple. Do not be a consumer. If you don't believe that there are using ethical practices, that they are not good products, or they're doing greenwashing, anything like that, just do not be their consumer. Sometimes you'll have to walk to a whole other part of the town to buy something that you're looking for, but that's fine, as long as there is enough of people who are boycotting, let's say, or not using the services that are not considered good or sustainable or ethical. I think that is the only thing we can do, because shaming people on TikTok or Google reviews is not really effective, because that the only thing that really matters is the only thing that really matters is for businesses is to earn the money. And if you are not their consumer, if you want to be really impactful, you can say, I wanted to buy this from you, but it's all, it's not what it says, so I'm not going to buy it from you. And you can do it regularly, and maybe at some point they're like, okay, people don't buy this product because it's not sustainable. Okay, we'll replace it in our stock. Maybe like that. I don't know. It's very hard. It's hard. If it was easy, the United Nations would not be gathering the political leaders so often to figure out how can we make the world a bit more sustainable. So I see the hand raised. Mm-hmm.
I want to ask, how can emerging technologies like AI and blockchain be leveraged to enhance transparency and efficiency in sustainable supply chain?
I want to ask if this question was prepared by artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
because is it really what you want to know? Like, I understand that it's a lot of nice and big words in that sentence, but is there something that actually you want to know, that is related to this topic? And I'm sorry, I don't mean to satirize the question. It's just, I'm trying to choose more informal examples and informal topics, to explain really the depth of the sustainability. If we go now into transparency of supply chain using AI technology, I think this is going to be a slightly different session.
Yes, it's related to my field.
Okay, so that's really what you want to know. To be honest, artificial intelligence at the moment is not at the level where it can be integrated into everything that we do, not as advertised. So I think for the most part, in the next 10, 15 years, still the heavy load of making things transparent as the products come to us through the supply chain, it depends on the humans. And I think that's what we should remember. I think artificial intelligence is just a tool. It depends on how we want to use it. And at the moment, the way people are using it isn't really contributing to anything sensible. So I think it will be a while. It first takes a human to identify what is really the sustainable supply chain and where it can be improved or not. In many cases, those supply chains aren't even traceable. That is still a problem. And it depends on people, because people at the factory forgot to file a paper that they needed to file when they sent the truck with the oranges to the container where they be positioned into container. So it is still very human. And while humans are still walking around the factories with the paper in their hand, it's still all up to them. So AI won't be able to do much without the data, and the data is still a problem to collect. I hope that answers your question. So I see Hiba has her hand up. So
Thanks, Julia, for answering my question.
So, is there anything which you want us to know that will help us to make informed decisions when it comes to sustainability and in terms of business operations? Because when students graduate, they often feel like there's a gap between what they have learned and the practical world seems a bit different, a bit unfamiliar. So, what you would suggest, or are there any steps or instructions you would like to give?
absolutely, yeah, of course. This is probably the most interesting question for the most of the listeners, because this is something that you will have to face fairly soon, I'm assuming. The most important is that you need to not rely on any particular one source of information or advice. So you are currently at the university, and I hope you're doing your best in getting your degree. But at the same time, there are many other sources of information. So one very important one is that there's no better way to learn than to do something in practice. So if you feel like you want to learn more about a specific business, that maybe there's an office on the corner of your street that is doing something that you like, oh, well, it's not really my thing, but it's interesting. Go in and have a conversation with them, ask them if they need any help. Maybe they want that you help them for 1 week or two to, I don't know, digitize their data. Precisely, I was talking about the papers, maybe they want somebody to put those numbers on the computer and they don't have any money to spend on anybody. In those 2 weeks, you will learn a lot about how they operate, what questions they face, what problems they face. I mean, there's nothing more important than being aware of your own business environment, because I can tell you a lot about European business environment, or specifically Dutch, or specifically another country where we were active. But I would probably lack knowledge to share with you what is important where you are. And it even differs, not just by country, it even differs by city. In one city, it's common to do things like that. For example, in Poland, people joke a lot about Warsaw being a very fast city because it's a capital, and Krakow, which is the capital of the lesser Poland, is a very slow city, and things practically aren't happening. It's very, very calm and chill. And even between the two cities, the practices in business are different, and expectations of your future employers are different, and expectations to you as a future entrepreneur are different. And I don't know if it is common where you are based to have co-working places where people come, entrepreneurs come, and they work in the same space on their own projects. Those are also good places to visit. It's very important to meet as many people as you can before you graduate. Don't wait till you graduate and you're like, and then I'm going to look for a job. Look for a job now. And then maybe by the time you graduate, or even if not just the job, maybe to find what you want to do as an entrepreneur, then you go from business to business and you can ask them questions. And I'm sure the smaller ones, especially the smaller ones somewhere nearby, maybe will be happy to answer your questions. Maybe you have some businesses that are from family friends or relatives. Help them, ask them. The more you can do and the more you can ask and the more you can be active, the better you will understand what's the reality around you and where you are entering. And by the way, don't forget to check what funding opportunities are available through your city government or regional government for female entrepreneurs. Maybe that will give you a direction, because often there are funds for women entrepreneurs across the world. And then it says specifically in the area of tourism. So then you have to start thinking towards that, because your government prioritizes that at this moment in strategy. It depends. We were doing a project in Spain, in Galicia, and there was a big project about big strategy about women entrepreneurs and digitalization, so making things digital. Now, currently, European Union has a huge movement towards young entrepreneurs who will be doing not agrotourism, I think more like agrarian services. So growing, so basically going back to the farms. They're trying to get young people to go back to the farms, but they're offering funding. So look at the strategies of the government and the funding sources that are available for you in the future. And that can give you the avenues to which you should look.
So, I would definitely be working on this, like launching any of the business. So for me, like, what if the people are not accepting me the way, they should, if I'm promoting like the higher content fit, because people are not into organic things right now. So yeah, that's the question I have for you.
Well, I think you will, any business at any time faces a challenge that the people are not ready for their product, or they're not ready for the service. But I think the most important is that instead of many businesses have to go through educating their customers, and that if that is your path, you better start educating your customers before you open a business, because that takes a lot of time, and it's pretty much all the time that it takes. And in the meantime, there are no sales. So if you're gonna open a business and the people are not ready for it in 3 or 6 months from now, then you better already start, let's say, an Instagram channel or whatever social media is used, or whatever. Maybe they use flyers. I don't know. It depends on what are your target audience. You have to understand really well who is your target audience. And very important for you to go and speak with people who already have a business for which there is little sustainable business, for which there is little acceptance. So somebody who is your potential, maybe partner rather than competitor. So because the collaborations between the small businesses that both have to educate about one topic can be quite powerful. And once again, if there's funding available at the regional level or city level to make things in a better way, you should look into that as well, because maybe there are specific funds that are for you to organize courses to teach people first and then to offer them an alternative, So everybody thinks that what they need for the first of all is a name and a website. That is the backwards way of starting a business. The name and the website you need when at least you have a few possible clients who are already asking, okay, what's the details of that you're offering? First, you need to build a long list of people who potentially would like to use it. Actually, being a student, it's a wonderful opportunity. You can take, if you need to write a thesis or some research work, you can say, okay, I'm going to study perception of people of the sustainable product, which is possibly the product you want to be selling. And you can run surveys within your thesis with these people. So you spend it's all about organizing your time. You cannot, once you start a business, you cannot spend any more time educating people. This is it. The more time you spend educating people, the more time you're not making money. So you're spending your savings, if there are any. So all of that, while you're a student, you have to do. Run surveys, do polls on LinkedIn, I don't know, send flyers in your neighborhood, whatever it is. Go speak with the municipality, ask them what they think. Will they support an idea like this? But it is never about fighting anybody. It is never about saying to the person who does not want to buy your product that they're wrong. You can invite them to be educated. You can invite them to your masterclass about this topic on the weekend, for example, but you can never tell them that they're wrong, because they're right in their own way. And if you start from kind of the place of, from antagonizing them, so then they will never be your client. You also have to understand what is their point of view. Maybe it's just about the money. Maybe they simply don't have enough money. Well, maybe then if it's a hand cream, make a smaller portion, and then they can afford it, and it lasts longer time, So try to understand also the position of the people. So I hope that answers the question. I hope you took notes.
Yes, I did take notes. It was really nice. You like really explained in detail, and I really do appreciate the fact that you were so open with all of the questions that we were asking, and you'd give a very great answers to make sure that we perceive it in a very easiest way, giving real life examples. So I really do appreciate. Thank you so much for being with us. It's the best opportunity we would ever get.
Well, thank you very much. This is so kind of you. And thank you, Ayesha, for organizing it. And I think one last thing I want to share, but that's maybe just as aspirational. In April, we are celebrating our 7th birthday as an organization. So that's pretty incredible for us. This, 7 years is a long time for a small business. And we have published a book about, let me see. We have published a book, a collection of stories from our volunteers. So let me just scroll through. So all the volunteers that wanted to share their story, that from different initiatives that we have, we've included it. And so you can even read it. I'm going to put it in the chat for afterwards. So in the future, of course, we're going to be hosting a few more initiatives this year. And so stay tuned to the call for on the UN volunteer platform for our initiatives. I think Ayesha, you can tell more about that when you see her. And I don't know, is there anything else, Ayesha, that we wanted to mention?
Okay, sure. Thank you so much. The way you are explaining to us, the way you are teaching us, it's incredible. It's really one of the best moments of our life. And of course, I'll share every detail which you have mentioned and about the book also. And if I can ask you one last closing question, and after that we just sign it off. May I?
Of course.
So more of same. If you had to design completely new way to think about entrepreneurship for the next generation, for the goal to ensure that sustainability is built into the system rather than being added into it later, what would that framework will look like as per your experience?
That's a great question, because I have been thinking about it and I have been working in the background on a framework precisely that, but I have not, it is not finalized yet. So I'm not launching it yet. But it's true, because if we take the frameworks that people use at the moment, the business model canvas, well, what is there about sustainability in the business model canvas? Nothing. There's literally nothing. I mean, the sustainability per se it should not be like, oh, is there sustainability? No, it's not like that. It's sustainable development precisely is about satisfying the needs and desires of the current generation without compromising the well-being of the future generations. And that is a thought that basically I think it has to be put in a block also, like if you take business model canvas and we add a block, and that block will be like, does it satisfy the current generation and the future generation? And if the answer is no at any level of the design, then you have to go back and redesign it. I think that would be, for the moment, this is as much as I think I can imagine, because as I said, I am designing for a while already the approach to sustainable entrepreneurship, but it's a complex topic. And for now, the tool that is used the most, and probably will be used still for another few years, is business model canvas. And to that, add another block. And does that satisfy the current generation without compromising the future generation, the well-being of each? And I think that should be your teller at every step of the way.
Thank you so much for answering the question. Thank you for all the insights. Thank you for the real life examples. I want to sincerely thank you from on the behalf of all the participants, on the behalf of my university, on the behalf of my respected dean, Dr. Dilshad Zafar, and our head of department, Dr. Shehbaz Khan. So thank you very, very much for this session. This means a lot.
Thank you very much. It also means a lot to me to receive so many nice reactions and to know how important it was for you, for all of you. Thank you very much for active participation. I mean, from many groups that I've spoken to recently, I think you have been the most active group, actually, because people are not afraid to ask questions. They have interest. They're engaged. So that was wonderful. Actually, it was more engaging than I expected. So thank you very much for that. And I think Ayesha and I will share with you all their, follow up, the recording, the slides, whatever, and all the rest. But I'm very happy that I got the chance to meet all of you today and to help you maybe a little bit in your journey. And I'm wishing you success and good luck in that journey.